Guys, we're so excited. Just about 28 hours?
Yes, sir.
Or so, 29 hours
29.
from kickoff in Kansas City. We've been looking forward to this since the schedule came out. And without further ado, let's continue to talk about it with Jesse Newell, the Kansas City Star, Kansas City Chiefs beat reporter for the Kansas City Star. Jesse, thanks so much for the time. We really appreciate it here in Detroit.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, I got to ask you, first and foremost, it looks like Chris Jones stepped foot in Kansas City today and met with reporters. What is the latest with one of the best defensive players in the NFL?
Yeah, sports writing, you wake up, you never know what you're going to get. I was going to go to McDonald's today, do some work, go back to my home office, talk to you guys, and nope, Chris Jones decided he was going to go to the Ronald McDonald House and talk to some kids there in Kansas City and fly in from Miami to do so. So, the latest with him is he just continues to hold out. He talked today about just wanting a raise. He said he didn't feel like he was really letting teammates down, just basically saying, hey, if you're at a job and you're asking for a raise, that doesn't affect anybody around you, and that's sort of where he sits at. But says he's in good shape. He mentioned that he could play tomorrow if everything got settled. Obviously, that's not going to happen or shouldn't happen here in the last 24 hours. But just kind of continue to talk about what he wants from the Chiefs and how he wants to get more money, and that just is going to entail a process that's going to play on past today. So Chris Jones did talk, but a lot more of just him holding out and continuing to do what he thinks is best for him. So we shouldn't see him against the Lions, and for the Chiefs, I think they'd be lucky to see him here even in the next few weeks.
Hey, Jesse, I know that Chris Jones said, and Braylon Edwards here, appreciate you for joining the show. I know Chris Jones says that, he's not a distraction right now and nobody has a problem with that, but I've been in those locker rooms when guys are holding out. I've seen how it is. Guys say one thing, but it could be another thing. Have you sensed any level from the Kansas City Chiefs that this is bothering them, maybe on defense, a little bit more than he's letting on?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised to hear him say that because he was asked specifically whether he thought he was letting down his teammates, and he pretty emphatically said no. But I think you're right, Bill. And I think for Andy Reid, he hates dealing with these situations to start with. He hates talking about it. I don't know if you guys got to catch like the 2 minutes of talk he had yesterday after the Travis Kelce injury, but he was pretty terse, pretty short with his answers. He was, I'm sure, frustrated with the Kelce injury, but also getting asked more about Chris Jones. But I think you've even seen a little bit of a change in tone from Patrick Mahomes. From a couple of weeks ago when he was asked about it, he said, hey, when Chris is back, he's doing what's best for his family. The team welcome him with open arms. I asked him about that earlier this week just to say, hey, what are your thoughts now that it looks like you're going to play week one without him? And he basically said what Andy Reid said, which is you deal with the guys that are in the building. So, again, it is hard to get out in the public with the media and have these guys, give truthful answers because they're in a tough spot. You're dedicated and devoted to your team, and you're also wanting what's best for your teammate and for them to get the most money available. But is there a possibility that this thing maybe has changed tone here over the last couple of weeks? I definitely think that could be the case.
Hey, Jesse, Tom Mazaway, thanks again for coming on with us, man. Last week we did a story on Travis Kelce. Well, we're going to talk about him in a second, but last week he was the one that was saying, hey, Chris, we need you. I'm begging for you to come back. What's with that then?
Yeah, and Travis it's hard to more parse out his because he's got that really, really super popular podcast with his brother. I think part of that was sort of for the entertainment value with him and Jason kind of begging him to come back. Come on, Chris, what are you doing? And then part of that, as he kind of kept going along, seemed like it was a little bit accurate when he was talking about, okay, I don't understand what you're doing. I don't get this, that sort of thing. So Travis was asked about that earlier this week. It's hard. He kind of said he was having some fun with it. And, he's on the podcast. You kind of play up a little bit for that. But I think there are some probably true raw emotions in there that Travis was talking about. And you look at those two players. You look at Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. What they're known for now and potentially what they're going to be known for in the future is they've signed deals with the Chiefs that have been pretty team friendly. And Patrick Mahomes has been open about that. He's right now, in terms of APY, he's ranked 8th out of the quarterbacks in the NFL. And again, he signed a long-term deal at the time. It was the richest in, I think it was North American sports history or whatever the case may be. But he's been content to say, hey, I'm okay getting my share as long as I can keep good teammates around me. And guys like Chris Jones are happy and able to go out and win championships. So I think there's a mindset there, at least from those guys, that I'm okay not having the top as long as I'm out here chasing championships and with the guys I want to be with. Where this has gone with Chris Jones has gone in a different direction. It seems like Chris Jones right now is in a position where he's looking for absolute top dollar here. And whether that ends up being in KC or not down the line, I think that is something still to be determined.
it's a little bit easier, Jesse, when you take less. When you're doing Saturday Night Live, you're making $15 million off the field. You can negate some of that fee.
Yeah,
Chris Jones isn't making that money off the
Chris Jones
field.
isn't doing that. That's right. Hey, Jesse, let me
He's
ask
got the
you.
DirecTV.
Oh,
He's got
yeah,
the DirecTV commercials.
That's
Yeah,
right.
That's
he's
true,
got
that's
the
true.
limited one. SNL pays you a little bit more.
Okay, you're right. Here's one. They have like 20.
Hey, Jesse, we're talking to Jesse Newell, Chiefs beat reporter for the Kansas City Star. Mentioned Travis Kelce. I think when this thing came down about 24 hours ago, when Andy Reid revealed that Travis Kelce had perhaps a hyperextended knee or whatever the injury is, I think a lot of us here in Detroit were like, what was that? This is, if Travis Kelce can't play, and even if he can and isn't going to be 100%, how big of a hit is this to the Chiefs offense? As long as they got 15 out there, seems like Kansas City's got a chance. but big hit, though, with Kelce if he can't play.
Well, you guys are like me. I mean, we get to the Andy Reid press conference yesterday, and it's what they call Fast Friday. It's usually a really light practice 2 days before a game. And so Andy Reid comes up there. We weren't expecting any injuries, and he goes, yeah, Kels hyperextended his knee out there at practice. We're going to see what happens. And, I mean, I'm racking my brain like, Kels? Is there somebody besides Travis Kelce? I'm not remembering right now, like, just to make sure I totally understood what was happening. But, guys, I think you look at the Vegas line, and it's pretty indicative of what's happening here. It's sort of interesting. May 11th, when the Lions first came out for the game, the Chiefs were 6.5-point favorites against the Lions. Earlier this week, when we all assumed that Chris Jones was not playing for the Chiefs, the line was 6.5-point favorites for the Chiefs. In the last 24 hours, since Travis Kelce seems to be ruled out for this game, I think it just might have come out online there, the line has dropped to 4.5 for the Chiefs. And so we talk about this being like, hey, this is Andy Reid, this is Travis Kelce, and this is Patrick Mahomes, and this line sort of indicates that. It seems like the Vegas people out there are trying to get this money back on the right side, and that this Travis Kelce absence is moving this thing a couple points. So who to look for in his absence? Obviously, Noah Gray is the backup tight end. He has been the backup, but has been emerging. He was better last year than he was the year before, so you can look for him. A couple receivers. I don't know if they'll activate them both, have them both be active on game day, but Rashee Rice is a second-round draft pick. They've used him kind of like a tight end, physicality, blocking-wise, coming toward close to the line of scrimmage in a close split to be able to do that. So he does some physical things like a tight end. And then Justin Ross is their second-year receiver who is a jump ball threat in the red zone. 6'4", can make guys, can get around guys in short-term space. So I wasn't sure both of them were going to be active for this game, but if the Chiefs are trying to replace a tight end with other tight end type players, they might look to those two receivers.
Love Justin Ross out of Clemson. He was phenomenal when Clemson had their run. Too bad those days are over. I got a question. What about Sky Moore? Sky Moore's a guy we didn't see a lot last year. The Chiefs were high on him throughout the process of the draft last year, and then obviously we see him score in the Super Bowl. Is that a relationship that Patrick Mahomes has kind of tended over the offseason, and now we're expecting a boom once the season starts?
Yeah, Sky Moore's absolutely the guy to watch. I mean, anytime anybody asks me about fantasy football questions, that's the one I really mention. It's hard to get sleepers on the Chiefs because, like, you've heard of Mahomes, you've heard of Kelce. I mean, those are pretty big names, but I would say he's the guy. Last year was really a transition year for him. They had him play all three wide receiver spots. It's a lot to learn in the Chiefs offense. Andy Reid, historically, it's a tough offense to learn anyway because of all the mental processing you have to do before the snap. And then not only that, Patrick Mahomes, and what makes him and Kelce so good is so much of what they do is post-snap. They adjust to the defense that's out there, and they go and find those openings. And you have to see the game the way Mahomes sees it for him to trust you and be out there. I remember last year in a game against the 49ers where Sky Moore came across the middle, and he didn't cut it at the exact right route, did not cut in front of the defender. And because of that, the defender came up and made an interception. And Andy Reid said afterwards, like, hey, that's on Sky Moore. That's not on Patrick Mahomes. But that's the sort of thing we're talking about. You can lose trust in a receiver if that happens. But Sky Moore of the offseason was the first one to work out with Mahomes, worked out with him all those months, talks about his understanding of the playbook, how he's not just listening for the play and figuring out what to do. He's learning and figuring out how to beat the man in front of him. All that is second nature now. So I've been saying this for a while. I think Sky Moore's 900 yards plus for the Chiefs this year receiving. He only had 250 a year ago. So if he takes that step, it will be a significant step, but they're definitely expecting more out of him in his second season here with the Chiefs.
Jesse, I apologize. I tricked you. That was a fantasy question, but thank you.
Hey, Jesse, I wanted to ask you, how are the Lions viewed nationally in Kansas City? This is, for us here in Detroit, this is probably the most anticipated season that the Lions have played football since 1991, the date of their last playoff win. They finished 8-2 last year, and this town is thoroughly excited. Most of us probably, when the schedule came out, counted this one as a guaranteed loss, though. Now, with Chris Jones out, with Travis Kelce out, I think a lot of people here in Detroit are like, yeah, they can go in there and beat the Chiefs. How do people in Kansas City view the Lions?
Yeah, I mean, I think up and coming is what you're talking about. And, I've read I saw the Dan Wetzel piece out there, like, is this the game of the century for the Lions, that sort of thing. And there's something to be said about that factor of you're going in there and trying to prove yourself against somebody who has won the championship. I mean, you go back and look at the Chiefs. The Chiefs had this happen just a few years ago. The Patriots were out there. The Chiefs had the season opening game against the Patriots. The Patriots were out there, had all their inflatable, Lombardi trophies on the field. We're celebrating it. We're dropping a banner. And the Chiefs went out and hung a bunch of points on them and won that game going away. And I think, again, it was sort of like putting the Chiefs on the map and a team that was very motivated going in there. And so, I've talked about this. I think that this is a fascinating matchup in that regard, because just hearing the comments from Dan Campbell this week and from some of the Lions coaches and players, it does seem like there's a little extra emphasis on this game, because the Lions, we saw at the end of last season, we saw how, they played better defensively, that rookies stepped up, all those sorts of things. But this is sort of like a prove it game for them. And what better way to prove it than to go into the home of the world champs and try to beat them on national television when there's no other game on. So Andy Reid has high respect for the Lions. Obviously, he talked about them earlier this week, and the last half of their season compared to the first half and that sort of thing. But this should be a great game playing out, and it does really feel like that sort of this is a great test for the Chiefs, because they know they're getting everybody's best shot this year after winning a Super Bowl, but the Lions might take that to another level just based off of their trajectory and what they're trying to prove to people and also to themselves this season.
So you got a question for you on the Chiefs offense, their running game. Last year they do it, Isaac Pacheco, they got Jerick McKinnon. What happened to Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Is he still going to do anything on this team? Have they given up on him? What's up with the whole running game with the Chiefs?
Yeah, he is still here. He's still got a lot of first-team reps in training camp. I don't know. I mean, it's tough for us to know. Like, Pacheco took over that job late last year. He ran really well. He ran really well in the Super Bowl even while he was injured. He's been in a non-contact jersey for most of training camp, so he's been eased back into action, but he's supposed to be full go for this particular game. He got a few snaps in the last preseason game. Jerick McKinnon obviously is their pass protector, and in the passing game that they use so much, he was the AFC Offensive Player of the Month for December, which is just crazy to say, because of all the touchdowns he was able to catch and all the fantasy titles he was able to win for folks out last year. But, when it comes to Clyde, they continue to put him out there. They continue to have him, and the fit on the roster doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but he's a former first-round pick, and obviously they had faith in him at one point because of that, and if they can recoup something out of there, then they're going to try to do it. So for a while, I thought he'd be a good trade candidate if somebody wanted to offer them something and clear up space in that running back room, but the more time went on, the more they just kept using him in the preseason, especially with those other two players having their reps limited because of injuries. So we'll see with Clyde. I think what he really lacks is burst. I mean, he just does not have the top-end quickness, speed that you see from a lot of NFL running backs. But before he got injured last year, he had some successful moments. If you remember Patrick Mahomes doing the whirly cue against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and throwing the ball in the end zone, that pass was to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So he can help in the passing game. He's been there a while. They know what they're getting from him. It's not quite the burst that you expect at the NFL level, and not the burst that a guy like Isaiah Pacheco will give them when he's in the game in the backfield there.
Jesse, thanks so much for doing this, man. Hopefully, maybe we could do it again in February if it's Lions and Chiefs in the Super Bowl. How about that? All right. Thanks, Jesse Newell. Go.
Appreciate it, guys.
Yep, you got it.
Thank you. Appreciate it, buddy.
Chiefs beat reporter for the Kansas City Star. Awesome stuff there.